All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video, breaking down this Thursday night football game between the New York Giants and the San Francisco 49. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, guys, so just getting into the preview of this game, the Niners are heavily favored to win, and that is simply going to be because the Giants just haven't really looked all that good. Obviously, they played a good second half against the Cardinals. I don't know, that was just a weird game because it almost felt like, I don't know if you guys saw the Deion Sanders quote where with the Colorado Buffs pretty much saying he needs to bring in new players because Colorado had a losing mindset. It kind of felt like that with the Cardinals. It's like they weren't supposed to be good this year. They weren't supposed to win. So they kind of resorted back. I don't know. It's just weird. It felt more like the Cardinals losing that game than the Giants winning. Just a weird game. That being said, we all expected the Giants to be better than this, but that's because we expected their defense to be better than this. So I would say this is probably a correct line. That's my long way of saying, like, it wouldn't be shocking based off of what we've seen of both teams if the Niners actually blow them out, especially with Bark. That being said, maybe this number is a little bit too high. Now, looking at the injury situations, the biggest news that we are waiting on, especially for the Niners, especially for DFS purposes, is going to be Brandon Ayuk. Because if he sits, that's going to open up another elite value play, and it still might be a decent value play. It's not exactly Jerome Ford from Monday Night Football. Hope you guys took advantage of that. That was just like a clear-cut, easy play at his price tag, given his talent, given how much work we thought he was going to get. And yes, we got super lucky with the Nick Chubb injury, but still the correct process. Like, that was getting rewarded for simply not being dumb. And that's not exactly going to be the case with this play I'm going to mention, but the talent's there. And then looking at it for the Giants side of the football, I am very curious to see Robinson once he gets back on the field, because he played a limited work last season, but he really popped in that small sample size that we saw. And I just want to see what he looks like coming back from that injury. But obviously the big news is going to be Saquon Barkley being out. And so with that, DraftKings, considering their pricing, is betting on Matt Breida being the guy because he was the person that came in right as Barkley got injured. And that is probably correct. Now, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, will it be more of a 70-30 split, 50-50 split, 40-60 split? You know, what type of split is going to be for Matt Breida? I do think he'll probably end up with the most touches. At the same time, Gary Brightwell has been someone that really continues to pop each and every preseason, at least the last 2 years. He is someone that they do really like there as well. It wouldn't be shocking to see maybe him get a few touches and him pop off a big play. The best takeaway that we can get, though, in a game where they are going to be 10-point dogs is we're probably not chasing either of them. The best hope that we can get for them as a play is that one of those two catches some passes out of the backfield. Some people are probably going to talk up the rookie Elijah Gray just because he's a rookie running back. It's like a common theme that we see happen. It's like, oh, he's a rookie, he's someone worth looking at. No, that's not true. Like, just because they're a rookie doesn't mean they're intrigued. The pecking order will be Breida, Brightwell. That's who we're betting on. And then maybe a little bit of work for Gray. So with that, for the Giants, it does become a pretty difficult slate to really bet on any of the Giants players. Like, with Saquon Barkley out, we are losing like 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 targets, 29 rushing attempts. That is obviously the focal point of their offense. So where is that production going to go? I mean, you got to imagine that Daniel Jones is still going to get a lot of rushing attempts. And if that rushing floor is still there, he is someone that we probably should be looking at. What I kind of worry about is that if you look at the way that the Rams were successful last week against the Niners, those aren't really passes that Daniel Jones is going to be throwing. These like deep middle routes where a receiver sits down. He typically I don't want to say he struggles with those, but that's not typically his repertoire. And so if we are playing Daniel Jones, it might be one of those situations where I don't want to say we'd only play him in the captain spot, because I do think he's going to hold some solo value, but we don't need to pair him up with another pass catcher. I would say the obvious one would be Darren Waller. Everyone's probably going to be flocking to him. And I'm not going to say that that's wrong. You know, he played in 90% of the snaps last week. And for what it's worth, guys, his opening prop line, 4 receptions, was set at 4. And we just look at the target difference. I know he didn't play that many snaps in week 1 because they got blown out, but it's going to be tough to imagine him not getting 8 targets, thus probably having a very similar stat line as to what he had last week. For this slate, is that going to be enough? It could be. Obviously, we really just need a touchdown out of him. Then from there, like, literally the best outcome for Hodgins as a fantasy asset happened last week, where he basically secured all of his receptions and then scored a touchdown. That is the best outcome for him. And at his current price tag, that is not something that we should be chasing. Now, Darius Slayton is probably a better play, just considering he's a little bit cheaper. He also was on the field a bunch. Hodgins played in 75% of the snaps last week, and then you actually had Darius Slayton leading the snaps at 82%. Obviously, he got targeted 6 times, so he's going to be the better play than Hodgins, I would say. And I'm like 95% sure it was Slayton who almost came down with an awesome catch, but Daniel Jones let him a little bit too far out of bounds. I'm pretty sure it was him, and where he just couldn't get a second foot down. But then again, you do still have Paris Campbell at such a cheap price tag as well. Paris Campbell actually played in 67 and 66% of the snaps. So significantly less than Darius Slayton last week and a little bit less, about 10% less than Hodgins. He still saw 6 targets. And if this game is going to be a game in which they're playing from behind, they're running out a little bit more of 11 personnel, 10 personnel, maybe the snaps go up and maybe gets a little bit more production. I would say that it does feel like a safe bet to not hurt you. It's just how much is it going to help you on this slate. Then Jalen Hyatt actually saw his yards go down, his snaps go down from 36 in week 1 to 21%. That should really tell us all we need to know about how they view him. And this isn't anything new from the Giants. Dabble likes to play the players that he likes. And until he starts to like a player, then we're just not going to see them. Sterling Shepard hasn't played that much. No need to bother with him. The one player that's kind of interesting price tag wise, and I know he hasn't been utilized that much, and with Saquon Barkley out, we're probably not going to see a lot of 12 personnel. But given the snap share, it could be like a shoulder shrug thing where if you end up on needing a player below 1,000, he could be someone that you're looking at. Daniel Bellinger playing 63% of the snaps, 41% of snaps. Really not much there with the Giants as a whole. That's the tough part. Now, I will say there is some sort of path to maybe some fantasy relevance for Robinson. Last year, we saw him come in and basically play instantly. I'm not saying that's going to happen because it does feel like they have a lot more depth, but maybe there's some reports coming out that saying, hey, he's going to play and he's actually going to play. He's actually going to get snaps. Then maybe looking at him at $200. Nothing too crazy. That's not the value play I actually want to talk about though. So yes, in summary, guys, it really feels like I would say Darren Waller, considering the price, is the best Giants player that we are getting. And then probably Paris Campbell, once again, considering the price, and then Darius Slayton. Then from there, I don't know if we're really targeting anyone. Obviously, Daniel Jones, if you're trying to get that rushing upside, he can still get there without having a productive passing game. Look at the Niners. This is going to be the much better side of the football to predict. So let's start with Christian McCaffrey. I do expect him to go off. Guys, James Conner just went off against this team. I mean, he had a lot of running room. And I think James Conner is not that bad, but it was kind of shocking the gaping holes that he had. The Giants thus far have given up 212 rushing yards. The only thing that they really haven't done is given up that much production in the passing game to opposing running backs. But besides that, they have given up a lot of points, about 20.6 DraftKings points per game. And the thing with it is we can almost just project that production then to Christian McCaffrey. Because with CMC, we have seen him get 85% of the snaps, and that was a game that was a blowout. Then he played in 100% of the snap. We see that workload. Over 20 touches, over 20 opportunities in each game. And I would say if I was like a fantasy manager, that's like great, but also it's like, let's get that workload down a little bit, actually. Let's keep him healthy, But that being said, I don't think there's a way in which you can't play CMC. The question is whether or not you can fit him into your captain spot. I would say for now, let's go with him in the flex. And then that being said, I do like Brock Purdy as well. Brock Purdy really I shouldn't say should have. He could have easily had 2 more touchdowns. And what I will say is that if you give him those passes in this game, he'll at least hit one of those for a touchdown. And I would say those were his 2 worst throws, ones that should have been touchdowns. That being said, going against this Giants defense that literally just made Joshua Dobbs look really good. And Joshua Dobbs has actually not looked bad, but it's looking like a pretty good matchup that we get this week. Now, that being said, is this price maybe a little bit juiced up, especially if Brandon Ayuk is not playing? Potentially, I do think we are going to be locking in basically 15 points, and I do think that'll be enough. The easiest play I would say on the slate, especially if Brandon Ayuk is out, is going to be Deebo Samuel. In week 1 against Pittsburgh, got used as you would expect, had 9 total opportunities and 4 receiver in his position. That's pretty darn good. And then last week, obviously had a much better game. I'm not going to really say that was that was because Brandon Ayuk was out. I would say that was a contributing factor, but it did seem to be kind of the game plan. The Niners want to get Deebo Samuel involved in the game as soon as possible, pretty much. We're going to see probably 1 or 2 quick plays to him in the first 2 drives. Whether it be a screen, end around, or, one of those plays, that's most likely going to happen. We know he's going to get involved in this game. That is only going to increase, I would say, if Brandon Ayuk is out. And just for what's worth as well, his receptions prop is only set at 4.5 for prop spending. I found that one to be very strange. I think he's going to be easy click. Now, the biggest question that we have is what do we do with Brandon Ayuk? He did come down on his shoulder and he tried to kind of tough it out, was in and out of the game. Honestly, I don't want to say he didn't look the same because it's tough to really say, but it almost looked like he wasn't confident in his shoulder, if that makes sense. You could see that he was frustrated with it, that it was more than a bruise, pretty much. That was something that was a nag on him throughout the game. Now, he still played, and it's not like the game wasn't close. Like, they needed him to play. And so him only playing 53% of the snaps to me is highly alarming. Like, yeah, he's still got 6 targets and whatnot, but if he's going to have his snaps limited again, which based on the reports, it kind of seems like that could be the thing that occurs. Like, set up Monday, limited on Tuesday, probably going to be limited on the walkthrough on Wednesday, and then we'll see. if he only plays, let's say 70% of the snaps, obviously that's increasing a little bit, but that's also going to be down from the 85% that he played in week 1 in a game that was a blowout. Who would benefit the most? Well, obviously you have Juwan Jennings there. Juwan Jennings' role, I think, is kind of solidified in this offense. He's going to be on the field in 10 and 11 personnel. He is their receiver number 3. Juwan Jennings went from 32 to 47% of the snaps in week 2, and he is someone that probably should have had a touchdown as well. I would say because of the Brandon Ayuk injury, they actually have already bumped up Jennings' price tag. He is nothing more than a lineup fielder, shoulder shrug play. If you end up on him at that price tag, especially at Brock Purdy in the quarterback spot or in your lineup, then you play Juwan Jennings. The player that I'm actually most interested in is the preseason stud. That preseason stud that I'm referring to is Ronnie Bell. Guys, he looked really good this preseason, was making a bunch of plays each and every game, and he does feel like a little bit different of a receiver as to that of Brandon Ayuk, but they really like him here, and obviously we see the big plays that he made during the preseason. Love to see that. He's someone that was getting a lot of hype out of camp, and what's the one thing we have seen thus far this season is that these young receivers that have gotten hype out of camp have actually been productive when the opportunity has risen. And so his snaps went from 10% in week 1 to 47% of the snaps, but I want to point this out. I found this to be very interesting. Okay, Brandon Ayuk ran 17 of his snaps on the outside. He ran 13 of them out of the slot. Ronnie Bell, 9 on the outside, 18 out of the slot, which I would just say you would expect more out of the slot from him. But you look at Juwan Jennings, only 7 on the outside and 15 out of the slot. I found that to be interesting. So Ronnie Bell played in 47% of the snaps, but played in 2 more snaps on the outside. Now, that's not much, but maybe that's a slight tell that Ronnie Bell might actually operate a little bit more as the replacement to Brandon Ayuk than Juwan Jennings. And so kind of just given how close those two were, and I know Juwan Jennings is the one that should have had a touchdown. I know Juwan Jennings is the one that's been this offense. He's the one that, had some points. To me, it just wouldn't be shocking to see Ronnie Bell get some more work and actually maybe get a couple of those short yardage catches that we have seen Deebo Samuel get. So definitely not the best value play that we got. Been able to hit on some very easy value plays. I'm not going to say that this is an easy value play, but given the price on the slate, it almost feels like a play that we have to make because we want to be prioritizing the studs on the slate. And I do want to just touch on George Kittle as well. I could see George Kittle, he's someone that's just going to be schemed into a game plan if Kyle Shanahan sees it fit and he's going to go off in those games. And just given how the Giants have looked thus far against the rush, especially last week, I don't really see him having an increase in routes or really an increase in production this week. I don't see that being the matchup to exploit. I think they're going to be running Christian McCaffrey into the ground in this one because that's the way you beat up on the Giants. And then you get up early and you want Daniel Jones to throw the football. That's the recipe for success. So when we're looking at this build that we have going here, we can see by doing the educated guess on Ronnie Bell, once again, that's only if Brandon Ayuk is out, you can make a pretty good lineup. Now, whether you want to throw in the Niners defense in there, that's going to be up to you guys, but you can make a lot work. I will say we do want to probably prioritize CMC in the captain spot. I do think he's going to be the one that's the most likely to have the highest score. Also, Deebo Samuel could still have a good, not exactly something you want to chase, but it is a low enough price to where you could go Niners defense to where you could go Darius Slayton and still feel good about it. My biggest worry with this lineup is maybe a little bit too many New York Giants pass catchers. Now it's Thursday Night Football. Weird stuff happens. That's fine. I will give you guys another build here real quick, or just 2. I want to do one with CMC in the captain spot and then one with Brandon Ayuk active. So if we were playing CMC in the captain spot, I don't think we can end up on Daniel Jones. I just don't think that's possible, or just it'll lead you to a good lineup path. But then again, this is kind of the worry here, is that we are kind of in a dead pricing zone now as a result. So we go down from Darius Slayton, and this is where we can get to someone like Paris Campbell. I do think considering his price, he's going to be one of the better plays on the slate, and now we can then afford Brock Purdy. This feels like a very good lineup then. We're getting a little bit of the narrative. CMC is going to get this game up early. You're going to get Darren Waller and Paris Campbell getting some catches. Brock Purdy maybe throwing a touchdown to Samuel. That's all great. And then last is do one where we are not going with, hopefully, a very cheap free square in Ronnie Bell. Then I think we probably would have to go back to Deebo Samuel. Well, if Brandon Ayuk's there, I don't know if we want to go Deebo. Yeah, let's try to adjust that. Let's see. We'll go back to Deebo in the flex. Do we do this? Is this stupid Darren Waller in the captain spot? Very cheap. Try that. Still get CMC 3.1. Don't love that. Go down from Brock Purdy. But who do you go with Brandon Ayuk then in that regard? Maybe Darius Slayton and Hodgins or Kittle. I guess that could be it. Let's see what we can do if we still play Purdy and then try to find the 2 values. No, that honestly, I don't like the builds then if we if Ayuk's active. I feel like that changes the whole dynamic of what we are trying to do. It obviously becomes more difficult by design, I would say. And yeah, it definitely gets ugly pretty fast if that occurs. Look at this lineup. It's not that good. I do think we're probably just ending up on Ronnie Bell and hoping for the best there. Yeah, it's ugly. Sorry guys, that's the analysis there. But that's gonna be all for this video. I know it's a bit longer. I don't know, this game is more fun than really Monday Night Football last week. So enjoy it. The Niners are a fun team to watch, and it's just very interesting to see how the Giants will respond. Which New York Football Giants are we going to see in this game? That's what I'm most interested in. But good luck to you guys on Thursday Night Football. Let's have a good slate, and as always, let's keep cashing.